So we've tracked this vocal here and it's sounding pretty good, but it's not perfect. So what we're gonna do in this lesson is apply Logic's auto-tune to help correct it so it's nice and smooth. You can always go into flex pitch, which is what's gonna be on the beefier course version of this course on the Sound Collective subscription platform. But for now, we're just kind of talking about the basics here. So let's open up the Logic auto-tune or pitch correction here. Gonna do mono since we're using a mono track, and let's talk about the interface on this real quick. So you can add your key here and add different versions of the keys, as you can see, right? All the different scales. And it's based off of the piano roll, which is a nice visual to use. Obviously, it's super easy. And you can also basically bypass, which is what we're gonna do later. We're gonna bypass certain notes here to follow our melody, to kind of shift the audio to flow into these corrected tunings. You can bypass also up here certain notes and have it kind of flow between. I like to use the option of turning them off. It's kind of more controlling that way. I feel like it's just a little smoother. Global tuning, this button here, you're gonna wanna keep on. And we have this normal setting, which is for basically non-baritone keys or instruments. And we have this low setting for low register items. Sometimes I'll run my bass guitar through this and I'll put it on the low setting. It reads it pretty nicely if I feel like it's a little out of tune or a little wonky tuning. But obviously for vocals, it's more of like a baritone, really low voice, which I don't have right now. So we're gonna keep it at normal. And we're gonna talk about these here. Detuning. Detuning will literally pitch shift your stuff up and down. You wanna leave that centered. The only time you would use that is if you're doing an edit and there's one thing that's just sharp and you're just not reading it anywhere else. I would chop that little piece out on a double track and then maybe do the detune on that just to kind of correct it, which is a little bit extra. You shouldn't need to do that in most cases. The response time. Now, this is really important. This is gonna basically read how fast the auto-tune acts as you're playing it along. So if you tune it, if you put it kind of slower, it'll push the notes to the notes that we're gonna select in the piano roll slower, and it creates a much smoother flow. If you put it all the way fast, it tends to be, it sounds kind of robotic. It actually is like the T-Pain effect that you hear in a lot of music nowadays. Let's take a look here. So I put it fast. I really need somebody, yeah. So that's the classic auto-tune effect that you hear. Some people call it a vocoder, which is not. A vocoder is a different thing that correlates like a synthesizer, playing your voice through the keys, but that's a whole nother thing. Let's stay focused on this. So we heard it go through. I'm gonna keep the response right in the middle so that it's just kind of standard flow here. And we're gonna basically listen through and see which notes in the piano roll react to my voice and take out the ones that we don't need so that it eventually pushes everything into the notes that we actually want. And that's how the auto-tune works. It automatically tunes your voice to the notes or the key that you select. Let's see. I really need somebody, yeah. So I see it hitting this G a lot as like the main solid note, which means my key is probably around there, but what we're gonna do is I'm not gonna use the key feature, we're gonna mute some of these. So I saw it hitting some of what would be the black keys on the piano roll. I'm gonna mute a couple of those and see how it goes from there. I really need somebody, yeah. Cool. Probably don't need this D sharp either because it looks like it's dancing on that E pretty hard. Let's give it another listen. I really need somebody, yeah. Someone just like you. Cool, sounding good. I might be able to take this F out, but I'm gonna leave it in. I really need somebody. Let me take this A sharp out though, because I think I go up to that B. I really need somebody, yeah. You hear it pushing it a little bit more now? Let's keep going. Someone just like you. I really need somebody, yeah. Someone just like you, just like you. Cool. Just for curiosity's sake, let's hear it really fast so we can hear that auto-tune effect. I really need somebody, yeah. Cool. That's always a really good test to make sure you have the right notes blocked out. Because it sounded pretty clean and sounded really good, which means I had the right notes blocked out because it's not trying to push them really fast to the other notes. So I think we're doing pretty good here. I'm going to leave it like that. I don't think we need to change anything else as far as muting notes in the piano roll. So let's close this and let's hear it with the music. I really need somebody, yeah. Sounded pretty good to me. Someone just like you, just like you, just like you. I really need somebody. Okay, cool. So let's keep that like there. I'd say actually this would be a good example of a time to use the detune effect. I really need somebody. I'm not mad at that actually. We can leave that like that. I think that's doing pretty good. I would say what I was trying to say as an example to use the detune is like, we could maybe cut this out here, duplicate this track, drag it down, and then if I needed to, sounded maybe a little flat. I really need some. Maybe let's try and detune it up a little bit. I really need somebody. I really need somebody. Sounding a little better, but there's a pop now. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this is nice and clean. Throw a little crossfade on there. I really need somebody, yeah. Cool. And the cool thing, so the detune happens last in the chain. So it's not going to detune before the autotune. It's going to take the auto-tuned information and it's going to slowly pitch all of that up with my voice. So that's pretty much the full use of the autotune function here. We're going to dive into tracking stacks under this vocal to kind of give it some support and get this lead vocal really shining here in the mix. I'll see you in the next lesson.